This is married and before you came along?
No, probably a year, that's all, before they got married, if that.
Okay. Well, growing up in South Africa, what to you was perhaps a couple of really memorable moments in your life? If you can pinpoint
Memorable moments. Well, I remember we always went on holiday at the end of the year in December. That's summertime there, and people would get long holidays that time of the year, like a month off. We would always go away with my family to a place called Durban, which was at the sea. I remember going to the Kruger National Park a few times with my parents and my family when I was growing up, at least 4 or 5 times. Great experience. At that time I hate to see the animals being killed, because I would, as a kid, think it was very cruel and all. I didn't understand the circle of life in those days. Still loved being out there with my family. Remember a very sort of laid-back lifestyle in really beautiful weather. When I grew up, beautiful weather, sitting at the pool, having barbecues or braais in the summer, and that's sort of what I really remember.
Okay. What about Jewishly? Any fond moments or memories of Jewish life there?
Yes. Definitely we were very, very Jewish in South Africa. I did not grow up religious. I only realize now that we grew up conservative, but we called ourselves Orthodox because there was no differentiation. I went to Jewish school my whole life. The name was King David, Linksfield. Very traditional. We always were Jewish before we were South African. If you had to ask us what we were Jewish. Identified very much so with being Jewish, and also Israel, very Zionistic in South Africa.
At that time, because I know quite a few people from Johannesburg, what do you think the population was, the Jewish population in greater Johannesburg, would you say?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell you.
Probably in maybe the tens of thousands at that time?
Probably tens of thousands.
Okay. I see these beautiful, beautiful relics on the table here. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you now have them here?
Yes. My mom had her father, who I told you was from Kovno, Lithuania. He had one sister, her name was Bertha, my auntie Bertha, who came to South Africa with Uncle Laza, her husband. They didn't have children, so when they were getting old and looking to give their things away, they gave these candlesticks to my mom and the silver menorah. Yeah. So it's like very special to the family, because it's like about 150 years old right now.
Fantastic. Beautiful. How can you tell us a little bit about how and why you made the decision to leave South Africa?
When I left South Africa, it was a sort of bit of a state of turmoil in South Africa. There'd been the Soweto riots, which was very, I think the real scary thing for all of us. We always saw the writing on the wall that maybe for whites to live in South Africa and raise children wouldn't be the safest thing. And when I grew up, my parents had always told us that we want you out the country. I have 2 siblings. We want you out the country. We don't have to go, but we want you kids out the country, so you will raise your children in a place where it's safe. And I just happened to come to Dallas because I met Ivan, and he was in Dallas already, and that's how I landed up here.
Where did you meet him and when?
We met in Israel, actually. A very chance meeting in Israel for like 10 minutes, if that, and landed up getting together.
And what year about was this?
That was the end, 76. In 1976, I went after high school, after my matric, to visit Israel. He had just finished the army in South Africa, which was compulsory back then. He was coming to Israel thinking that he would live there, and we had this chance meeting for a few minutes, and that was it. And then he landed up coming back to South Africa, and we kind of got in touch through a girl who was in his class at university.
Wow. So did your siblings also make the decision to leave? And your parents, what did they do?
My parents never left. My oldest brother left a little bit before me, and I've been here 32 years. He left a little bit before me to go to Sydney, Australia. And another brother who, he's a little bit older than me. I'm the youngest kid in the family. He actually is in Austin, Texas.
Oh boy, you're all Texans. What do you know?
We're all Texans.
And you said Ivan was already living here.
Yes.
Chose to already move to Dallas.
He came to Dallas.
Now, what did he do in the beginning? What was he doing here at that point?
He was at that point just working. He had come to see about living here, and he was doing odd jobs to earn a little bit of money, mowing lawns, doing anything to earn a little bit of money. And then he actually got sponsored by someone in stockbroking.
Now, we're always curious about how did people pick Dallas. So how do you think Ivan, well, you know what, I should ask Ivan. I'm sure you know, but I was thinking, why Dallas as opposed to Houston or somewhere else or somewhere in the South, but I'll save that for him. He can tell us. Had you considered any other place to live, either you or he or both of you, do you think? Or was this just it? This was it?
This was it.
Okay. In what ways do you think your friends or even your family was helpful? Did you know anybody at all when you arrived? Was anybody else helpful to you to come here and help settle you here?
Actually, when I got here, Ivan's sister was already living here, so that was very helpful. And then just met friends slowly, our age group. You meet friends, and at that stage you like hear who's coming, and you all become friends and sort of join, and they become your family actually.
How soon after all of that did you settle here? Did you actually have children, or did you have children?
Yes, I had children 5 years after.
5 years. So you kind of probably at that point, did you make a circle of friends who had maybe children about the same age?
Exactly, all the same. Yes.
Okay.
Your friends become, well, we all had no children in the beginning, and then we all started having children at the same time.
I'm going to assume, but I shouldn't, have you always lived here on Hyacinth? Did you?
Well, no, we lived in apartments, and then when we moved into this house a year before we had our first child. She's 26, so
you've been here a while. Long while. Was were your kids in private school at all, or were you with the public school system around here?
They were in private schools through kindergarten, and then we put them in public schools.
Okay, very good. It's always nice to have a support system wherever you're settled and wherever you live. That's great. What were your first impressions, if you can think back, kind of being in the States and being in Dallas specifically?
Well, the craziest thing is, believe it or not, I did not know what Dallas was until the show, and I don't remember when that was. I did not know Dallas existed. And if you spoke to me as a kid about Texas, I literally would see desert with cactuses and skulls of animals. That's what Texas was to me. So then when I saw the show Dallas, I got to see, okay, it is a city with people and, you know, it's like a normal place. And then, you know, moved here and it was pretty normal to me. Like South African at Johannesburg, where I'm from, because there's no ocean around, it's just a city.
Right.
But our weather was 100 times better, I have to say. And Johannesburg is just very pretty because of our climate. The trees and tropical plants and flowers just are beautiful. I mean, it comes summer, everything's flowering beautifully, not like here where it's like dead by the middle of summer.
Hot as can be. Yeah. What challenge, can you think of one or two challenges, really, really hardcore challenges that you faced moving across the world, you know, halfway across the world to this part?
To this part. For me, the biggest challenge was being very, very homesick. I was very, very upset for like about 3-4 years, just like heartsick all the time, just lived for visit to visit of my parents coming here, or us going there or something like that. And then just, I think at the 4-year point or so, I really just realized that it was totally my choice to come. Nobody said, Melanie, you have to marry Ivan, you have to go to Dallas, and it just turned around like that when I realized that was, you know, the case. No, I wasn't the victim anymore. Before that, I just felt like such a victim being here.
Well, do you think that others were probably going through something similar? People that had similar backgrounds as you?
So. I do think so, and I kind of heard afterwards it says it can take 3 years to get used to a place, and that was about how long it took me, maybe a little bit more.
What did you get involved in when you came here? Or even a little bit past that?
Okay.
Did you find a job? Did you have some hobbies you were interested in that kept you going?
What I did is I had a teaching degree in South Africa, so I did go to North Texas State for 1 or 2 semesters to get certified so I can teach here. My dishwasher worrying you at all? Can we stop for a second?
Sure. Go ahead.
It's just like, sorry.
That's okay.
So just remind me what you asked.
If you got involved in any activities or you got your teaching degrees.
Yes, I got my teaching certification here. I remember getting involved in Hadassah, something like that. I got involved with that. I taught at a substitute like a Kiba, that sort of place, till I eventually did get a job at the JCC teaching preschool. What did I get involved? We were always very involved in our shul. We belonged to Ohev Shalom. We've been there like since its inception. And I was co-president of the sisterhood with my sister-in-law at that time. So this was like a long time ago, before I had too many kids.
Ohev Shalom, but at the time, were they yet located up here?
No, they were south of us.
So it was, okay. But you drove. Did you drive to shul? Was it okay? How was that?
We did. We actually were not religious in any way until it came to my kids, my oldest daughter going into 1st grade, where we realized that I'd been to a Jewish school my whole life and was not interested in anything Jewish actually. And Ivan noticed that with a lot of the South Africans that went to my school, that they didn't want to, you know, keep any religious things, just also very traditional, but otherwise not interested in anything Jewish. And we decided we'll put our kids into public school, but then we need to be more religious at home. And that's how we started off.
Okay, very good. Overall, I'm curious, how welcoming do you feel this community was for you as a new immigrant, and or the Jewish community for you as a new immigrant?
I think they were great.
Yeah.
If I look back, I really think it was great. I know, like, if I would bump into anybody, just a total stranger, and meet them, they'd start talking to me, hear my accent, ask me where I'm from, that sort of thing. And then they would tell me, oh, we belong to Hadassah, you should come to a meeting. We belong to this. There's another one, Jewish something women's, but I can't remember the
National
name.
Council?
Yeah, National Council. You know, I would meet people that tell me about it. I found people were very, very warm and open.
Good.
Welcoming.
Have you gotten involved through the years in something like more general in the community or in a professional area in the community at all?
No, I haven't. I've just been very, very involved in our shul. And I guess we have a yeshiva now that's, like started at our shul, a yeshiva. We're very involved in that. So I have a lot of those boys over to my house. That's really what I'm involved in.
Okay. Now, what would you consider cultural traditions that you've maintained from your South African roots? Can you pinpoint any of those that you...
Cultural traditions. Well, I would say we've taken on a lot of the Jewish traditions here, which we didn't even do in South Africa. So you're talking about South African traditions more than Jewish?
Either way. Certain foods, ways of doing holidays, ways of doing... Right, so that touches on it too, sure.
That's, Well, my favorite holidays is Thanksgiving. Absolutely love it.
American Thanksgiving.
American Thanksgiving. I do the whole thing. I look up every Thanksgiving recipe. I mean, you name it, from I don't know what, the butternuts to the this to the apple pie. I really go all out, the different breads. I absolutely adore Thanksgiving. Now that my children are older, especially, they come in for Thanksgiving, so it's even more important than it was.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
just, like, it's my favorite. What else? I love all the holidays. I put a flag out for Memorial Day, for 4th of July. I'm like the most patriotic person on the
You're
street.
probably more than a lot of us citizens here.
I
you know?
feel very, very fortunate to be here, actually. I really do. I think it's the most incredible country, and I feel very fortunate to be here. And culturally, the food, I kept up with a few things that South African to do, like on our holidays, Jewish holidays, we eat a lot of herring in different forms. Of course, do that. Otherwise, the food is pretty much the same. But my daughter got married a year ago, and we kept a tradition that we do in South Africa, the weddings. We first of all had a main table, which I know some people might do, but we had what's called the main table, and that consisted of the bride and groom and her parents on her side, and his parents and granny on his side. That's how we did that. We also started the wedding, the reception in the hall, with singing the American anthem and the Israeli anthem. That's how all celebrations start in South Africa. The South African anthem and then the Israeli anthem.
Very nice. Lovely. Okay. I know you said you guys met in Israel, which is wonderful. How important in your community in South Africa was it to be Zionist? Did you feel it? Did you act upon it?
Very much. It was very, very important. That's something that my school really brought across all the time. They would always have speakers from Israel come to talk to us. Like, I remember Begin coming to talk to us once at school, and I was really young still at that point, so I didn't even listen to what he was saying. I didn't understand it. But we would get really, like, top people from Israel come to talk to us, and we would go. They would encourage us to go on Ulpan when we were like 14 for either 3 months or 6 months. You could go live in Israel. You know, your year would go either 3 or 6 months to Israel. Very encouraging of anything to do with Israel.
Fantastic. This might be a little tricky, but think about this. Can you think of any South African / Jewish, but South African traditions, part of your heritage, that you would like to see your children continuing? maybe they're already doing it, or maybe it's gone by the wayside, but is there something that you particularly would like, or maybe they already are doing it, but if so, what would that be?
You're right, it is tricky. Can't say we do any traditions that were different. I mean, one thing we really did differently is we didn't celebrate Hanukkah like here. We really didn't make a big deal of it. The kids did not get presents. So we've kept that up in our household. Our kids just got used to it, you know. That's one we kind of haven't kept up with. Otherwise, everything I'd say is more or less the same. I can't remember any that are different. We would get chocolates on Simchat Torah, but I think it happens here too. So it does. Am I right?
Yeah.
That was one thing we did. We'd go to shul knowing we're going to get a big
sweets
bar
or
of
an
chocolate.
apple or something. Yeah.
We'd get bars of chocolate on Simchat Torah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, once you were here, and obviously Ivan was already here.
Yes.
Did you arrange for or encourage others that you knew? Obviously, your parents chose not to come here, but did you know of others that you were talking with or keeping in touch with that you kind of encouraged and that they in fact did come here and left South Africa?
I know, like one girl came. We bumped into her in South Africa when we were visiting. She was thinking to come across. We told her to come across. She stayed with us a while, and she landed up marrying an American guy. And, you know, the rest is history. Her sister, the same thing happened with. I can't think of other people we actually spoke to in South Africa to come across. I think they were thinking to come across themselves.
What about, do you still, other than are your parents still alive?
No.
Not? Oh,
no.
Sorry. Do you still have any family still there at all? Or
I have one aunt who lives in South Africa. Otherwise, I don't have anybody else.
Are you still every once in a while going back to visit, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Not since my parents passed away. And my mom passed away first, and then my dad. So it's been like 5 years I haven't gone back because I don't want to go back if they're not there.
I can understand that. What, if anything, do you really, really miss about home, about South Africa?
About South Africa.
Yeah. Besides the beauty of
the
city, but yes.
The beauty of it, yeah, and I've gotten so used to it here. I think the only thing I'd have to say that I really did miss was having my parents around, and now that they're not there, there's nothing that I really miss, because when I go back there, I feel like a fish out of water, because I've been here 32 years, so when I go back there, the people that were growing up when I left, I have no idea who they are. I'm like, you know, a lot of people my age have gone, so it's not people I know. I go to a mall there, I don't recognize anybody. I go to a mall here, like I'm greeting quite a few people. So it's funny, it's reversed now for me.
Are you a citizen? Did you become a naturalized citizen? Yes. So do you consider yourself an American now? Or is that kind of an unfair thing?
I do consider myself American, but I like to say I'm South African by birth, so for sure.
Since you became a citizen, I know people really of all walks of life, get very emotional when they talk about the whole process of becoming a citizen. What has it meant to you personally to say that you are now a U.S. citizen?
I feel really that it's a privilege. I really feel that way. And I feel it's just so lucky how it worked out for me, how things worked out. I got my green card. Then, you know, it was no problem getting my citizenship, and I just, you know, didn't go through any tough hurdles or anything like that. And I really believe it's a privilege, and I'm very happy about it.
Well, that's a wonderful statement. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this, Melanie?
No. Thanks for allowing me to talk about our, you know, journey.
Thank you.
And all.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us.
My pleasure.